Mute. It says we're live, but it's not showing yet, Charlie. Here we go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday, April 7th work session board meeting. It's good to see everyone's smiling faces, and I hope everyone had an opportunity to get out and enjoy the weather that we've been enjoying and been blessed with. At this time, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Freeman?
Here.
Mrs. Gator?
Here.
Mrs. Moomin?
Here.
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Miss Mitchell?
Here, we are all present and accounted for. At this time, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. And I don't know where the decision was left. Is it Mr. Roberts or Mr. Freeman who are going to deliver it?
I'll go ahead and read them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this point in time, I need a motion on the floor to approve item 1.3, our agenda. But before we do that, I just want to make sure there are no items that need to be added, nor any that need to be removed from this evening's agenda.
No, ma'am, nothing to be added or subtracted from this agenda at all.
Thank you very much. Then if we can have a motion on the floor to approve item 1.3, the agenda for April 7th, 2021.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move item 1.3, the approval of tonight's work session agenda, April 7, 2021.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Miss Mitchell?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, board. Mr. Jolly, I see we have public participation. Do we have any for this evening?
No, we didn't.
All right. Came in. If we can then move to item 2, we are going to have a facilities update from Steve, Sean, and Doug. So as they're presenting, as the rest of us can just go on mute.
All right, Don, you're going to put up the PowerPoint?
Yep.
Thank you.
Great.
And as Don's doing that, I want to thank you all. We're going to try to make this very quick because I know you have a pretty big agenda. Don asked us to go through this as quickly as we can. And we're going to let Doug do the presentation.
That's right. Well, thank you. I'll go ahead and get started. We don't have any requests this evening. We wanted to provide an update. We had put together a detailed plan, as you know, and we did receive bids and the plans changed. So tonight we wanted to just give you an update as to where we are and what the team is doing and map out our plans as we move forward. If we want to go ahead and start the presentation. So we did receive the bids on March 19th. So as the bids came in, Infinity's reviewing the bids, and we have good news. The bids came in below budget. But the bids had a lot of qualifications due to market conditions. Right now, there's an issue with availability of steel for metal trusses and metal deck. And a lot of the bidders qualified their bids saying that they can't meet the construction schedule as it was outlined. So we've met as a team, and Infinity is still evaluating the bids, for the price with the scope and everything else. But we needed to go through and revisit the construction schedule. And I'm just going to kind of talk about this. I kind of put all the notes down there, but really this is a presentation to inform you of what the team's doing and how we're acting, you know, based on this course change that we've had to make. With the steel, there has been an increase of 6 months based on the lead time of the availability of steel. And the plan was put together so that we could start the foundations, get the steel up, and move through the building. So you can imagine it's a critical path to have the steel. If we can't get the steel on time, it delays the entire project. So even as we've talked about different possibilities of, are there different ways to build this? Can we go ahead and engineer a different system? We looked at a lot of different options, and those really aren't feasible because they don't help the time as much and they also add costs. So if we can go to the next slide, please. And basically what has happened is we're not going to be able to meet the occupancy that we had planned for the high school in the fall of 2022. The construction was going to extend beyond that just because we are not going to be able to steel up in time. So all of the rest of the construction couldn't happen. And this is basically caused by, with the market conditions, and kind of what we found out is a lot of the steel has been gobbled up and it's just not available. So what's happened is Sean has been working with all of the steel companies. He's been calling everybody. He's been talking about what the options are and everything else. When we did receive the steel prices, the prices actually inflated $1 million above what we had estimated, and then we had this lead time. And so this is
I want
not
to bring up,
something.
Doug, I'd like to bring up one point though. Even though the steel was higher in value, we're still under budget tentatively right now
Yes.
for the whole project. So when we say $1 million, that's for the steel itself. I think it's important to understand is that Amazon has locked the market for steel. They have taken over one supplier, national supplier, which is has not only caused a problem on this project, but we're the owner's rep for the Football Hall of Fame, and their steel is more than 6 months before they could get a delivery date. So this is not the only project that's getting affected by this market condition, and it's very unfortunate. And we also are we even looked at the possibility, and it was a very strong possibility, the possibility of trying to get steel from Canada. But the state of Ohio, on these publicly funded jobs with state funds, it's requirement to buy U.S. made steel. And so we even looked at the possibility of being fined, but because of COVID, we can't get this steel across the border, so we weren't able to do that. So we've looked at a lot of different options, and Amazon is really, it's all because everybody's staying at home and they buy everything from Amazon. They're building all of these big facilities like the one you see in Randall, and which include basically the same type of steel that we use, which are bar joists and columns. And so this is something that was unforeseen, and it's affecting the entire industry. Go ahead, Doug. I'm sorry.
That's a good point, Steve, that we are under the estimate for the total project at this point. So with the actual construction being delayed, as we had the original plan, we build a high school, then summer would come, we would demolish or abate and demolish the existing high school, and then we would occupy, and then we would roll into completing, the site work. Well, now our construction is not going to end right when we had planned. And so we've looked into different safety issues and everything else. And what we're looking at doing is we're not going to tear the high school down until the fall, or I'm sorry, the spring of 2023. So what's going to happen is the high school students will remain in the high school. We're going to build the new high school. We're going to finish up the school year. Then when they come out, then we're going to abate and demolish the high school. So we're looking at occupancy for the high school, and we're looking at occupancy for the middle school that we're working on for the fall of 2023. We are looking at developing the athletic complex right now. That's under design, and we are meeting and we are coordinating that, with the overall construction, so that we're planning to have the stadium complete for the fall of 2022 as we had originally planned. Now that's what we're working on, and we have challenges that we're going to work through. We're identifying those, and we're going to deal with, what may come with that. But we'll be honest with you, and we'll deal with that as it comes. Right now, the plan we're putting together is to have occupancy for the high school and for the middle school in the fall of 2023, and to have at least the stadium complete. Now, the other ball fields are not going to be complete then, because we're working through the logistics. You need a lot of space when you're going to do this much construction that we're going to have. And so Infinity is still working on that. What they've done is they have put together a new schedule, and they have sent that out to the contractors for rebidding, so that we'll be able to get that in, and then we'll see what the prices are going to be coming in at based on that schedule extension. And then we'll be able to present that to you. As I mentioned, the athletic complex is under design right now, and we're still synchronizing that up with the rest of the project. So we have Moody Nolan and Osborne and O Sports are working on that, and we're planning to have that design complete so that we can get that out for bid and have a GMP for this fall. You go to the next slide, please.
Why don't we stay on that too?
Yeah.
Mr. Roberts, that was your question.
Yeah.
So what's happening now is we will have the track and the field for the football field and the stadium completed before the high school is completed.
Yeah. And we'll have to work through the logistics, because we still have a lot of construction that's going to be continuing. So we'll probably have to be managed for events. But we'll really have to still control from a safety standpoint all of the access, and we're still working through that. And the building demolition update, we're putting together the demolition plans right now, the construction documents, and we're still looking at having those be sent out for bids, so that we can come to you with a GMP request in the fall, so we can start the demolition for the middle school, the bus maintenance facility, and the Eastwood and Westwood. And then John Dewey, the middle school students are going to be relocated to John Dewey, so that demolition will take place after the middle school students are moved into the new middle school. So for the GMP2, which is going to be for the building and the rest, we already have GMP1 issued for our early site, the demolition and for the mobilization. So as I mentioned, we have it out for rebid right now. Infinity is getting pricing based on the bid extension. We're going to be receiving that pricing, and the team's going to be working together the week of April 19th to go through all of the costs, the schedule, assumptions and qualifications, and everything else. And we're hoping to have that all finalized April 22nd and 23rd. So we're looking to have a GMP request on May 5th. And if things go really well, and if possible, we might request a special request to have that reviewed by the board as soon as possible. Because as we found the steel issue, it continues to grow. So we've kind of taken a snapshot and said, this is what we're told today. This is the schedule we're putting together. The sooner we can make an award on that, the better off we're going to be. And if you can go to the next slide. So our next steps, we still have a Moody Nolan agreement that we had talked about removing their scope from the existing contract that we have with them, so that we can take the LFI work out. and basically make a new agreement for the athletic complex and the bus maintenance. So we're hoping to have that for you in the next board meeting. And then we're hoping with market and with construction, that we have to deal with. The team with Moody Nolan and Infinity are all working very closely together to optimize all of our options and to be able to try to keep the construction going and to give us the project that we're all expecting, the high quality project that we're expecting. Now, we do have Sean, he did join us this evening in case we have any other detailed questions or anything like that. And again, this is really informational so that we know we want to keep the board informed. This is a major course correction for the project that we've had to make.
Thank you. Are there any
Any
questions?
questions?
Go ahead, Mr. Roberts. You're on mute.
All right, as always, I have a couple questions also, but just some points of clarification as well. So we're going to have 2 years in John Dewey as opposed to the one for the for our middle school students. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, that's correct right now.
Okay, and this should not impact this summer's plan for the demolition of the middle school and the bus garage. That should go forward as expected.
Absolutely, because we're still pushing to get the stadium complete. So we want to try to get those buildings out of the way. And Infinity is kind of working on how they can use the site utilization. We're going to have a huge parking need for contractors. We're going to have a lot of materials. They're going to have to flow through the site. And we're trying to coordinate where the stadium's going to go. And so the sooner we get those buildings down and clear that out of the way, the more it'll free up Infinity to be able to use that site.
Okay, and one final question. This may be a Mr. Jolly, Dr. Rock type of question. The John Dewey situation, with that being pushed out to 2023, didn't we have a deadline for the state matching funding for the demolition of the schools? And does this push us beyond the deadline for the state matching fund?
Well, no, it's the completion of the project. So we have to, the project is completed. So the project can still be in the works. Well, we'll still be in the project in 23. So, yeah.
The deadline got stretched out.
Right.
Yes.
So the project is been stretched out. So we get to the end of the project.
Okay, so
Since we extended it here, right?
So that former deadline we had, the deadline we had before was based upon the previous schedule, and now with the new schedule, it extends the deadline as well?
Right.
Yes.
Just right.
And if I could follow up on that, we do work closely with the OFCC on this project. And they have shared that they are having the same issues with steel across Ohio. So they're fully aware of the situation and they're looking at on what they can do on their end. So if we have any kind of requests of them or anything else, we're keeping them informed and we're working with them as a real team member, on the project. So they're aware of this.
I have 2 questions. The first one is about the steel, understanding what's happening. Since we're still able to move forward with the construction of the stadium, it sounds like it's totally different type of steel that's needed for the structural build of the school itself versus what's needed to put that stadium up.
That's correct.
Correct.
And my second question is from what you shared, the GMPs won't be impacted. Our current GMPs that are signed.
The current GMP, the GMP 1 is not impacted. And we talked about a number of different options to try to accelerate this. And we've decided with the market conditions, we already have the project designed. It's already been out on the streets once. We wanted to tweak it and we wanted to try to get a complete GMP. So this next GMP is going to basically include everything except for the technology piece and the FF&E. It's also, we're going to finish the design for the athletic complex. So that'll be its own GMP. And then the demolition packages are their own.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question.
No, you did. Yep, that's
Okay.
it. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Are there any other questions? Well, thank you guys for continuing to provide such strong partnership and keeping us updated with what's happening. Just like everything else, the pandemic has caused some very interesting delays, and we have no choice. We just have to roll with the flow this time.
I just want to finish up. Thank you, Tracy, for even mentioning that. We've gone through a lot as a team. As you know, we went through some issues of schedule even on the first project. We got through those, and yes, there's always, you can never predict with construction. I will say the good news is we're within our budget framework. The biggest fear we had was this steel when this first came out. And I think even with it being over what that line item is, the other items compensated for this. And by being out front above, we're a lot farther ahead than a lot of other districts. And there's going to be even greater impacts with other districts. So that's why we're kind of pushing to get this thing in front of you as that GMP, because that allows the contractor to sign all the contracts and just keep moving forward. But thank you. I really admire all of you. We put you through a lot, and here's another one. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Jolly, if there's nothing else, I think we are able to move to the next section.
Okay.
Thank you guys again for
Thank you.
joining us. It's
We're gonna
good to
be with
see
you.
everybody.
you.
Have a good evening.
All right, have a
Thank
great
you.
evening,
Thank you.
everybody.
Take care now.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Mr. Jolly, the agenda is back in your hands, sir, for item 3.
Yeah, so 3.1 and 3.2 are both the MOUs for the extended school year. So the first one is WEA extended school year MOU, and the second one is the OPSI MOU for the extended school year. Both will be funded by using our ESSER funds and Title I funds. We will not know the total until we finish seeing how many students would have. Let me turn my video on. So we know how many students have registered for the program. As of today, I think we had about 400 students that were registered. About 85% said they were attend. We will keep this open to the 23rd of April. Our schools will start making the calls to get more, to get a touch from every parent. So the approval of both MOUs will allow us to extend the school year 17 days.
Awesome. Dr. Rock, can we vote on this via consent, or do we have to call a motion on each item separately?
No, it could be on consent.
Okay, thank you. Then if I could have a motion on the floor to approve items 3.1 and 3.2 under our Return to School District Committee updates, and these are relative to this 2020-2021 school year extension memorandum of understanding for both WEA and OPSI.
Madam Chair, I move to accept item 3, return to school district committee update. It says 3.1 and 3.2 as a consent agenda.
Thank you. And may I have a second? Everybody's on mute.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion, board? Hearing none, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Were you there?
He's not on mute.
Yeah, yes. Wait,
Okay.
Yes.
thank you.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, the motion passes 5-0. And I think I can say this on behalf of the board. We're very appreciative of the work you and the team have done, Mr. Jolly, to make sure that our students have everything they need to be successful in spite of everything we've gone through with the challenges with the pandemic. So thank you. All right, we're going to move on over to item 5, and I'm going to hand over the agenda to members Gator and Roberts so that you guys can give us an update on the development timeline of our new member orientation guide.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Let's see, with our new handbook that we're working on, board member Gator and I used the wonderful new elementary school facility to meet with 2 representatives from OSBA, Cheryl Ryan and Steve Horton. So we had the opportunity to sit, meet with them. We went through the outline of the handbook. We went item through item over the general outline, and then we established a timeline that we will work in, working with them to get the handbook developed. So the timeline, we had the initial meeting with them, went over the outline, and they're going to deliver the first draft to us by April the 16th. April the 16th, and we'll email this information, of course, to the board. So April 16th, they will deliver the first draft to us. Board member Gator and myself, we will review it. There will be one meeting in the interim in between the time we're reviewing and having back to them. So we'll make some edits, some reviews, give the board a chance to view them and in the meeting in between time, and we'll have that returned to them by April the 30th. So April 30th, any edits, updates, or whatever that we would like to have will be due back to OSBA. At that particular time, they would bring the second draft back to us on May the 10th, giving us a chance to review it. Go ahead.
May what?
May 10th. May 10th. Mm-hmm. You said, are you saying the 5th or the 10th?
10th, 1-0.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
1-0. I'm sorry. And giving us 10 days to once again edit, review, return it to them May the 20th. And then it would be our intent to have a final copy ready for review by our June 23rd board meeting. And hopefully everything will be in order, and we should be able to vote on the handbook at the June 23rd meeting.
So if I can ask a couple of questions here. So you'll get the final draft before the 23rd?
Yes.
Okay, because we'll have to have time to review it before we approve it. So looking, I'm sorry.
We had been looking at like 2 weeks on each particular time. So we intend to have it back from them, early to mid-June, but we just wanted to make sure it was in plenty of time for that June 23rd meeting. And I just wanted to have it on the record that we would like to have it, schedule a vote on that June 23rd meeting if possible.
Okay, thank you. So looking at the dates that we'll get the files back, they're falling, let me see, the 16th we'll get it back, which is before our meeting on 4/21, so we can build time in to review it on the 21st and come prepared, not to go through it page by page, but to provide you guys with any edits.
Just your input on it would be great.
Just our edits.
Mhm.
And then that second draft is May 10th, which sits in between 2 meetings. So then we would have it, sit with it, review it, and come prepared to discuss any final edits on May 19th at that meeting.
That was the intent, yes, ma'am.
All right, cool. Will you all have enough time after the May 19th meeting to return it to them by May 20th? Because that's literally an overnight turnaround.
No, because we'll get it back May 10th. Second draft to the board committee is May 10th. So technically, we've got some time.
Yes,
But-
because, Madam
what
Chair, our
if-
plan was, our plan, excuse me, our plan was to, review it at May 19th, and May 19th, any edits or changes that we as the board would have, we would do at that time. And then, once we make those the next day, we would just shoot it back to them.
And that's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Will you have enough time, or do we need to do a special meeting?
No, I feel, Mimi,
Honestly, because I don't want to be rushed with this in case there's a lot of questions. I'm thinking a special meeting might be in order, but I think we'll have a better idea once we get the drafts.
Yeah. So let's keep that in our back pocket, because that's why I was writing the dates down to see where they fell with our board meetings. Because if we have a robust meeting on May 10th, and for whatever reason we're in the meeting really late, that's asking y'all to stay up pretty late to get those edits redlined and back down to Cheryl and Steve. So I want to make sure you got time to capture everything. So what we'll do is we'll see what everything looks like that first draft, and then based on the number of edits in that first draft, and we can really come prepared to that meeting in April on the 21st with our edits. That second draft should be pretty clean.
that was our thinking when we
Yeah,
put together
and-
the schedule. By the time, the second time they sent it back to us, we should be, it's the changes we would hope would be minor at that time.
Minimal, yep. So board, it's on us to make sure we do our due diligence to help Mimi and Earl stay on their timeline so we can have final delivery and be able to review in time and approve at the June 23rd meeting. So we have to commit to, when we get it, you got to review it, sit with it, and make sure you go through it and put all your edits in so we can get those back to them. If we can get them back to them via email before the April 21st meeting, that will be great, because then at least they would have our edits and they can see where there might be overlap, or if we are all kind of all over the place with our edits.
A quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Earl, are
Ma'am?
we going, for that first draft, are we getting hard copies? Are we gonna, it's gonna be email? Because I prefer to have hard copies.
Well, we were going to work electronically, but of course we can actually, we could print them once we have them in our hands.
Okay, all right, I would really appreciate that.
Okay, no problem.
And my next question is, for those of us that are going to edit digitally, does everybody know how to use track changes?
So what I'd like to ask is that we only have one person doing that. I'd rather, if you've got, I don't know, we'll have to, maybe we can talk offline about that, Tracy. We do want to do the track changes. But I'm just thinking it might get to be too confusing. So why don't we first get the draft? Let us take a look at it, see if people have a lot of changes or if there's discussion. And then, yeah, I think I'd rather just have one person do the changes, whatever changes.
Okay, because track changes typically, if you've got your software registered, it puts your initials in on who's making the changes. But
But we
I
don't wanna
respect
make-
your ask, so we'll
Yeah.
look to see how everything goes.
The only reason why I say that is because what I'm kind of envisioning is before changes are made, we have discussion first about what the changes are, what's being requested, why do they feel as though this needs to be changed? So I think it's more of a discussion.
So for that, that's going to shift your timeline, because unless we have special meetings in between, we will not make your timeline. If we get a first draft back on April 16th, our meeting is April 21st. And if you're asking us to discuss before we submit our changes, that's going to skew the timeline. So I'm happy to do it either way you want, but just know that if we do it that way, we're going to have a prolonged timeline.
Go ahead, Earl, and then I'll jump in.
Madam Chair, I think it would be my request that upon receipt, Mimi and I would distribute to the board, and the board would then submit any, changes that they have at that time. And then we could compile, get a consensus of what, the other board members have submitted, and then present that on the 21st, and have, if everyone is fine with that, we move forward. If there was something that someone wanted changed and we didn't do it exactly the way, then we could have a discussion. But I think we would just keep one version going, just for the sake of version control, submit it, roll it out to the board, and go from there, instead of discussing every little particular.
That's what I said initially. I'm totally understand version control. I'm all for it. I just want to make sure I'm trying to correlate what Mimi said against what was originally conveyed and what I reiterated. I had asked the board, when we get it on the 16th via soft or hard copy, that we take time to go through it so that we can get our edits back to you guys for a discussion on April 21st.
Mhm.
Hey, so can Earl and I kind of sidebar about this and then maybe shoot an email to you guys? Because I think Cheryl had something a little different in mind. What I heard Cheryl to say was that the way she kind of envisioned it, and it's up to the board. If you guys want to have input on this first draft, then that's fine. But what Cheryl was saying was she kind of envisioned Earl and I as the initial, as the people that are working on this up front, go through the revisions, and then get it back to you guys. I think the discussion would be more so for the second draft. But if you guys would like to be involved in the first draft, then we may need to do a special meeting.
Yeah, I personally, I would like to see the first draft. I can't speak for anybody else.
Then I personally think that we should probably plan on, because we don't have to get it back to them. Well, we got to get back to them by April 30th. We would have already had our our work session. We might need to do a special meeting.
Why don't you guys go back, talk it through together, come up with a good game plan, and then, push it back to the board. And then when we're building out our agendas, we'll make sure we build in the right amount of time for discussion after you convey the cadence to us. And if we determine that we need a special meeting, we'll get them scheduled, and they will be totally dedicated to just a review of the draft. And that's only if any others beyond myself want to see that first draft.
I think it's a good idea for you guys to take.
Yeah, because I would like to see the first draft as
I
well.
think it's a good idea.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Earl.
I think we could almost settle it now, instead of, drawing it out and making a schedule. It would be my plan to, let everyone see the first draft. And
Right.
let's say, for example, Ray had a particular edit, all right? And Ray sent it to me. And if it was just, something like straightforward or whatever, I would add it and tell Ray yeah, that was good, and I sent it back. But also, if Ray sent me something and I had a disagreement with it, I would talk to Ray right then. I wouldn't even wait for a meeting. I would call him and have a discussion with it, see if he and I could come to a compromise, put it in the document. So by the time we get to that document, anyone who had something, any revision, it would either have been implemented as they submitted it, or it would be a discussion and there'd be a compromise implementation, so that we have everyone's input already to review by the time we get to that meeting on the 21st.
Rich, is what I've been saying. We have to commit to reviewing the first draft and get our edits back to you guys. The conversation, though, needs to be as a board. If there's something that is somewhat controversial or of concern, to use your terminology, because we have to all be able to weigh in on that.
I agree.
Okay, so again, if we get it on the 16th, and since you all don't want us to use track changes, we're gonna all need to have hard copies, which is gonna be interesting, but we'll figure that out. We'll work with however you need. And then we will need to be able to get those edits back to you guys before April 21st, so the two of you have an opportunity to go through those edits. So we need to get those. If we get it on the 6th, it's tight. That's tight. That's a Friday. That means we'd have the weekend to go through it if we tried to get our edits back to you by the 19th, to get it to you before the 21st meeting, so the two of you all could get together to go through it.
Madam
That's
Chair.
really tight. Go ahead, Mimi.
So technically, we don't have to get it back to OSBA until the 30th. So
Let's plan on a special meeting.
we might need to,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't have to be prolonged. You know, if everybody has reviewed, we can kind of do a round robin on what changes everybody has.
Yep.
Right, Earl, I'm reading that right, correct? April 30th is when it goes back to OSBA.
Yep.
with
That's what she said.
recommendations.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's what he
Question,
said.
Yeah, that's what I have.
So then we'll look for a special meeting, maybe on the 26th. I'm not sure what's going on 26th of April.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Earl and Mimi, did you have?
I can't
any
hear Ray.
Huh?
I cannot hear Ray.
You cannot hear me?
No, your volume is real low.
Oh, I'm sorry. Earl and Mimi, when you put together and you talked to Steve and Cheryl, did they have an outline of how many pages this board member guide would be?
Not really pages, but we've got different topics that we kind of went over with just to kind of get the conversation going. It's hard to say how many pages though.
You don't know.
Correct. We don't know how many pages until they type it up.
Okay.
I got you. You're gonna have different topics and different chapters in each of
It
these.
was like an outline. It was like an outline, and some things were kind of standard, and then some things would have been specifically tailored to our district. So it was, it was kind of like we went over a template, I would say, and now we await them filling in the template with Warrensville specific information.
What I can say is it was a combination of the Toledo School Board Handbook. And if you recall, we discussed this last year. Tracy came up with a really nice draft of different policies and things, and we shared that with them as well. So it's not going to be inclusive of everything, but I think it's a nice combination of both of them. So we did share that information with them.
So I think the biggest commitment is we just have to commit to when we get it, we review it, we come prepared. If I really don't foresee significant edits, but I don't know. If we find we need to schedule a special meeting for that first one, we'll get it scheduled. I think for the second review, we should not need a special meeting.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. So let's just get the first edit, the first draft. We'll take a look at it. If as we review and we find that we need to have a second meeting, we'll get that scheduled where we will be dedicated to just discussing the edits for that first draft, get it back so you all can get it back to Cheryl and Steve on time, and then we move forward. So let's plan on at least one special meeting. Sound
Dr.
good?
Rock had his hand up.
I did. Thank you for recognizing. One other option might be if we just merely give Cheryl and Steve our board meeting dates, and they could adjust the schedule to that. I'm sure they do this for other school districts, and they could adjust it around our meeting dates, so then it's strategically placed to where, you get the drafts and you can look at them during the board meetings. And then if we need a special meeting, of course, have a special meeting, but I'm sure they can adjust their timeline schedule to our board meetings.
And they said they will come to come to the meeting. So
Yeah. I thought you guys did discuss that with them, making sure this worked around our school board meetings. Because in essence, it pretty much does except the one. It just doesn't give us a lot of time to review.
And it can be as fluid as we need it to be, guys. We do want to try to get it done as quickly as possible, but if we think that there's additional edits or we need additional time, then we ask for it.
Okay. All right. So let's just get the first draft, see what it looks like. We go through it and then we move forward from that point on. Sound like a plan?
Yep.
That sounds like a
Thank you
plan.
guys for the work that you guys have done. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm glad you found that email, Mimi, where we had come up with that first draft of the outline.
I found my notes. I didn't find the email. I found my actual notes from the meeting,
Notes.
so I got
Okay.
lucky.
Yeah. Well, all righty. Well, that sounds like a plan. Is everybody align with that?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Well, then at this time, I need a motion on the floor to move into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
Madam Chair, I move this board go into executive session for the appointment, the employment, the dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, compensation of a public employee or official.
A second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Mr. Jolly, can you move those of us who are moving into executive session, please, sir?
Yep, I'm doing it now.
Thank you.
Should be going on now.
All right. So we're missing Ray. I wonder if he left the meeting by accident.
Yeah, because there was two choices.
Yeah. He had to hit the blue button.
They were actually both blue, but one
Oh,
says
see,
leave
mine is,
breakout room.
yeah,
You should have
mine
taken
is
the
white
red
and blue.
pill.
Let me see if he. Oh, there he goes. Yep, he left the meeting by accident. All right, so as soon as Ray goes back, can we have a motion on the floor to move into executive session for item 6.3 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept item 6.3 to move into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
Thank you, ma'am. Can I have a second?
I second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. Mr. Jolly, can you please move those of us who are going into executive session into a breakout room, please?
Do I need to stay on? Or?
We'll come back, and it was just a couple of announcements. It's up to you.
Unless we want to do the announcements first.
Or you could just give them to me if you want, or I can stay on, whatever you
Well, it's up
prefer.
to you. I was just going to let the community know that the board will be in our virtual NSBA conference beginning tomorrow through Saturday. And then I just wanted to remind the board at the April 14th meeting, we will not be in the Zoom room with the participants presenting the information because that is not a board meeting. It is a meeting where Mr. Jolly and his partners are presenting to the community what will be happening with, I think that was John Dewey. So I just wanted to remind the board that we join via YouTube. We're not in that Zoom meeting because if we all join, it becomes a board meeting, which constitutes a special meeting notice, so on and so forth.
I thought he canceled that meeting.
Oh, we canceled.
No, he took us out of it. He did cancel. We have to join via YouTube
Oh, okay,
because we shouldn't be in the live meeting.
okay.
All right, I accidentally went into the meeting. You were just saying, what I just heard you say is that we need to, for the John Dewey meeting, go into the.
Yes, because at that point, we're community members, just like when we come in and sit in the audience.
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing for the last
Yeah.
one.
So Dr. Rock, it was good to see you. Thank you for joining us. If you want to drop, go ahead and drop and have a good evening. Get out there, enjoy the rest of this nice pre-summer weather.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right, see you guys in the
Bye.
breakout session.
All right.
Where is it now? I was so lonely.
I'm gonna start.
You look perplexed. Okay, he's
I
gonna
was
try
so
it again.
lonely.
I'm gonna start it over.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I could see his presentation though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody get the, wait, what happened to my join? But there it goes.
There it is.
Join. Okay, so we're all here. All righty. So I guess without any further ado, we did announce again that the board will be at NSBA virtually tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. So did everybody go in and try their credentials to see if you could get online?
Yep, I'm good.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. So I'm sure we'll see each other online tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. Don't do like I did last year. Make sure you complete your form the right way so you capture your entire time you'll be at the conference, and then get everything back into the treasurer's office fine at the at the end of the conference. And then just a reminder to the community, we will have our community meeting on April 14th at 6:30. That will Mr. Jolly and Council President Howard and others will be on that call talking about John Dewey. So without further ado, if I can have a motion on the floor to adjourn this evening's meeting.
Madam Chair, I'd like to adjourn tonight's meeting, our work session, Warrensville Heights City School District, April 7th, 2021.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second. We second.
All
We
right.
second.
We are first, we moved, we're seconded, and we are adjourned, folks.
Out. We are out.
Yeah, so get a good night's rest so we can enjoy our second virtual conference.
Right.
It
And
starts at 12:30.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, thank you, Lord.
So I'll see
See you guys.
everybody tomorrow. Have a wonderful